Good day and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad to have you back on this channel. Today we are going to be looking at a very important topic under Management Information System, which is titled Information Security. As usual, we are going to be looking at the objectives that we hope to achieve in course of this particular study. And the objectives that we hope to achieve include: at the end of this study, we should be able to know what is information. We should be able to know the various types of information. We should be able to express some attributes of information. We should be able to define or explain what is information security or information security management, as the case may be. We should be able to tell the threats to information security. Then we should be able to explain the techniques for managing information security. So we go to the very first objective. What is information? Information has been defined variously by different authors and researchers. But for the purpose of this class today, we are going to define information as, number one, a processed data that is meaningful for usage. We can also define it as a processed data that is designed to achieve a particular purpose, that has a particular meaning and usage within a specific context. Information can also be defined as a resource that must be harnessed to ensure the survival of the organization in the event of rising challenges in the global industrial and business economy. Information is one of the key resources required by organizations for survival in the business environment. Information requires time, money and energy to generate, and the quality of information processed by management does not only determine its line of action but also its survival and growth. And that is why organizations that must survive and ensure that they operate within the global space of the economy in this 21st century must invest heavily in their information system, both the gathering, the processing, the storage, and so on. So we move to the various types of information. There are various types of information. It all depends on how the authors, researchers have classified this information. But for the purpose of this class, we shall be classifying our information into these following classes. Number one, marketing information. This type of information furnishes managers with orders received from different geographical regions and their distribution costs, and it will help management to understand their marketing spheres, to know the strategies to employ in ensuring that they achieve greater markets within the economy. Another type of information is the production information. This is type of information that furnishes management with machine capacity, forecasts, output levels, labor utilization, operating schedules, and so on. We have another type, which is the finance information. This type of information is about cash flow, forecast, budget, account, capital project, appraisal, and so on. We have another type of classification or type of information here, which is the personnel information. This type of information deals with information on employees, their grades, their rates of pay, the hours they work, their training, their job description, and so on. Then we have another type, which is security information. The security information deals with information on the level of security available and the state of organization in terms of security and safety of operators and personnel at various levels of the organization. So, like I said earlier on, these types of information are not exhaustive, but for the purpose of this class, we just brought out some of this type of information to explain what information is really all about. We move to the next objective that we hope to achieve, which is the attributes of information. For information to be of quality, there are certain attributes that information should be able to carry along that makes it of good quality. Number one, it must be clear. The information you are passing to the next person must be understandable and clear. Then it must go through the appropriate channel. What is the previous channel of communicating that message to the employee? It must go through that appropriate channel for that information to be of quality. Take for instance, if the manager passes information to the lower lower level staff. Every information should go through that channel whenever the manager wants to pass such information. Any other information gotten from other sources, either lower or alternative sources, makes such information to be suspicious and not to be of good quality. Then it must be sent at the right time. For that information to be meaningful, it must be sent at the right time. It must be encoded to the right persons in such a way that only the right people can decode whatever has been encoded and use that information at the right time. Then it must be communicated with little ambiguity or misunderstanding. The receiver of that information should not stress himself to understand what you have sent. You should not give the receiver of the information homework of trying to decode whatever you have said. The information must be accurate. Then it must be cost effective. The cost of sending that information should not be greater than the benefit of that information. So we move to the next objective that we want to achieve in the course of this study, which is information security. What is information security? Sometimes some authors will classify information security as information security management. Some other authors may want to separate information security from information security management. But for the purpose of this class, we shall give both definitions. They are similar anyway. So, information security refers to the protection of digital and non-digital information from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. It involves the implementation of various strategies, policies, procedures, and technology to safeguard the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability of information. Information security is essential in today's digital age, where organizations and individuals rely heavily on information technology to store, process, and transmit sensitive information. This information may be personal, financial, intellectual property, trade secrets, or other confidential information. The organization can decide to employ various measures to ensure the security of this information. Such measures may include access control, firewalls, antivirus, and different other methods, which we shall be looking at in course of this study. So we go to information security management. By definition, we can see that information security management describes the various policies, steps, and procedures put in place by management to ensure the safety, completeness, and accuracy of information at their disposal. It also involves the various efforts that management put into ensuring the safeguard of their information resources. Information security management can be achieved through various safeguards, which we shall be looking at in the course of this study. Permit me to let you know that information security is a constantly evolving field as new technologies and threats emerge, and it requires ongoing monitoring and adaptation to stay ahead of potential risks and vulnerabilities. So we go to the threats to information security. What are the threats to information security? There are various threats to information security. We shall look at them. Number one we have on the list is authorization violation. What is authorization violation? This involves using the organization network for personal benefit. It also involves using office hours and resources for personal purpose. Whenever a staff engages or uses the organization's resources, internet access, network for anything personal, it is regarded as authorization violation. Then number two is viruses, worms, and bugs. What are viruses, worms, and bugs? Generally, we can classify them as disastrous program codes inserted into executable program, and they spread from one system to another system, especially through copying, sending emails, attachments on the internet, and online services. And that is why we must be very careful on the links we click on the internet, because it may lead to a threat to our information security. The next one is denial of service. This is usually associated with internet network and is common in the third world country like in Nigeria. It is a kind of attack which involves a request that must be serviced, without which further access is denied. Sometimes you hear of downtime, no network, and so on and so forth. Then the next threat we are looking at is hacking. Hacking is a cyber crime associated with the internet. It involves a situation where illegal persons gain access to corporate or government sites to steal, modify, or damage information. Then we have another type, which is the cyber fraud. This involves illegal transfer of funds through unauthorized entry and fraudulent manipulation of information. This is one threat that is very, very common in this 21st century. Another type of threat we have is software piracy. This involves illegal copying and profiting from software developed by another person. Software piracy can include infringing on another person's intellectual property for personal gain. A simple case is where you see some of these softwares that have been pirated and being sold on various CDs instead of getting the online certified and licensed copy from the manufacturers. We have another one, which is the technical problem. This is a threat to information security because it leads to the malfunctioning of the hardware. Technical problems refers to the malfunctioning of the hardware and software resources as a result of factory defects or other problems. Another threat is terrorism or sabotage. This refers to the malicious damage to hardware, software, and network resources caused by disgruntled elements within or outside the organization. Then another threat which we shall be looking at today is junk emails. This is the sending of unsolicited email. It can be used for advertising and also for sending viruses and worms to unsuspecting victims. This is very common for those that are involved in email marketing and so on and so forth. But the basic thing we should note in this is that we should be very careful because some of these emails can be a threat to our information security, especially when we work with organizations such as financial institutions and so on and so forth. Clicking on a particular email or site can lead to a great disaster for that organization, and we must be very, very careful. Having x-rayed the threats to information security, it will be improper not to also give various ways or techniques for managing these various information security. So that takes us to the next objective: techniques for managing information security. There are various techniques for managing information security. These techniques have been grouped variously by different authors. Some of them can group it under physical safeguard, strategic safeguard, technical safeguard, administrative safeguard, biometric safeguard, and so on. Some can also group it based on short run, long run techniques. But in this class, I shall be giving the various techniques for managing this information security. Then I will also outline this classification based on these other classifications that have been advanced by various authors. So we look at the techniques for managing information security. In class today, I shall be giving us the physical techniques, which is the short run techniques, and also the long run technique. Permit me to let you know that these short run techniques can further be grouped into physical safeguard, biometric safeguards, technical safeguard, and so on. So as I give the explanation of these various techniques, I'll tell you where these techniques can further be grouped into. Number one, we have the use of physical locks and keys. That is ensuring that the place, the house, the room, or the building that is housing that information should be under proper locks and key. Another technique for providing information security is the provision of anti-burglary proof. Ensure that the place where this information is stored, either in computer system or whatever, is surrounded by anti-burglary proof to ensure that burglars don't gain access into such place. Then the provision of security personnel. You can also provide security personnel to ensure that they provide a 24-hour surveillance on that particular place housing this information of the organization. Then files and storage devices should be locked up in a fireproof cabinet in case there is fire. Then we also have provision of a computer environment against fire and water. Like I said, these are physical techniques for managing this information security. They are also grouped into the short run techniques of managing this information security by the organization. So organizations are at liberty to use any of these techniques. We move further by looking at other techniques. The use of passwords and identification cards. The organization should ensure that only authorized personnel with password and identification cards are allowed into that place where this information are stored. Then the use of firewalls. We also have the use of antivirus to ensure that virus doesn't get access into that particular information. Then we have the biometric security. This biometric security can also be classified as the biometric safeguard. Then we have the use of cryptography or ciphers. Let me quickly explain what cryptography and ciphers or codes, writing in codes, simply entails. Take for instance, you have to write ABCD, A, B, C, D, E. Then under A, B, C, D, E, you now write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to now write, for instance, you want to write Ada. Ada is spelled as ADA. Instead of writing it in alphabet, you can decide to write it in figure. Ada, under A you have 1. Then under D you have 4. So if you now want to spell Ada, you now write 141. And such message will be encoded to only the people that can decipher it and understand it and use it. So writing in codes and ciphers are of benefits, especially when that information is of high importance and you don't want a third party to gain access into such information. Then we now move to the long run techniques. Like I said earlier on, these techniques that we have outlined, the use of password, firewalls, antivirus, biometric security, ciphers, use of physical lock and keys, provision of anti-burglary proof, provision of security personnel, file storage in a fireproof cabinet, and so on. All these, I have classified them as short run techniques because the organizations can quickly provide these particular safeguard or techniques to ensure the security of their information. But beyond these short run techniques, the organization should look forward towards ensuring the long run protection of information. And under the long run, we are going to be looking at some of the techniques that will be relevant to the organization. Number one of that long run techniques is what we have called risk assessment. What is risk assessment? This involves identifying and evaluating potential security risks, threats, and vulnerabilities to determine their likelihood and impact on the organization information asset. It helps in developing a comprehensive security strategy to mitigate potential risk. Number two is security policies and procedures. The organization should be able to develop and implement security policies and procedures that is critical to managing their information security. These policies should be based on industry best practices and tailored to meet the specific needs of the organization. Another one is the access control. The access control helps to limit access to sensitive information. In other words, it helps the organization to allow only authorized person or authorized personnel to have access to where this information are stored. Organizations can decide to embark on this through authentication mechanisms such as password or even biometrics, authorization rules, maybe limit access to specific data, application based on users' role and level of clearance. Another one which I'll be looking at is security awareness and training. Security awareness and training program will help to educate employees about information security risks, policies, and best practices. This is critical in creating a security culture within the organization and reducing the risk of human error. When the employees know the implication of security threats to the information of the organization, they will want to do everything possible to ensure that such is avoided. Another long-run technique is incident response plan. What does this simply mean? Incident response planning involves developing procedures for responding to security incidents such as data breaches or cyber attacks. This helps to minimize the impact of such incidents and reduce the risk of future incidents. Another one we shall look at is security audits. The organization should be able to embark on regular security audits to help them to identify security vulnerabilities and gaps in the security strategy. This will help in making informed decisions about implementing new security measures and improving existing ones. Like I have said, these particular techniques outlined in this study are not exhaustive, but they are just a guide for us to understand the various techniques, both in the short run and in the long run, that organization can decide to employ to mitigate or to manage security threats in the organization. With this, we have come to the end of the lesson today. I want to thank you for being with me. If today is your first time of coming to my channel, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you'll be a part of various videos as we release them. Don't forget, this channel will provide videos and tutorials on various topics as it borders on accounting, management information system, computer software, accounting software, data analysis software, and so on. So please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so that you'll be part of this channel. I thank you for listening. Thank you. See you in the next class.